How's it going, everyone? Wanted to do top five movies, films of 2022, and yeah, this has been a great year for me. I think in terms of finding quality film. Um, it's been really exciting. I've been watching a lot of foreign films, and for the first time, and getting to see their take on um, this art has been um, fascinating. Um, yeah, so this first one, number five, is Come and See. Um, just have some descriptions that I'll read about these. Um, so, Come and See. If I can get the date. It's not telling me here, but this is a Russian film. Legendary film from Soviet director Elem Klimov is a sense-shattering plunge into the dehumanizing horrors of war. As Nazi forces encroach on a small village in what is known as Belarus, teenage Florha eagerly joins the Soviet resistance. Rather than the adventure and glory he envisioned, what he finds is a waking nightmare of unimaginable carnage and cruelty, rendered with a feverish, otherworldly intensity by Klimov's subjective camera work and expressionist sound design. Nearly blocked from being made by Soviet censors, who took 7 years to approve its script, Come and See is perhaps the most visceral, impossible to forget anti-war film ever made. Yeah, and the visceral part, I definitely say that that's definitely a big part of this movie. Is just it's kind of real vicious and cruel um, um, description of war, as you can see in this image here of the film. It's just, you know, a child. He's a child, and he's going to war. He thinks it's going to be all glorious and everything. Just finds it to be the exact opposite. And yeah, it's really powerful. And um, I've watched it several times this year because it's just so good. And the the visual aspect, the um, dialogue between the characters, the dynamic of the characters, and yeah, the way it portrays war, especially in the 20th century. So number four is a short film by Paul Cadenhead, The Last Step, and this is a movie. While skipping class, two teenagers share their final moments alive after they discover a nuclear bomb has been dropped nearby. So this I've had in mind throughout the year. It's really clever and has a good bit of humor despite the context. Visually very appealing. The music, I'd say, is the one of the best parts about it, especially the ending. The ending song selection it was perfect. Yeah, definitely check this one out. The Last Step. 3. Stalker by Andrei Tarkovsky. I think this was the first Tarkovsky film that I watched. He is, his filmography, every film is really great. But I think this one is my favorite, just because of the kind of fantastical setting and imagery and ideas that it's presenting. So I'll read another description of it just because these are so good. Coming from the Criterion website. Andrei Tarkovsky's final Soviet feature is a metaphysical journey through an enigmatic post-apocalyptic landscape and a rarefied cinematic experience like no other. A hired guide, the Stalker, leads a writer and a professor into the heart of the zone, the restricted site of a long ago disaster, where three men eventually zero in on the room, a place rumored to fulfill one's most deeply held desires. Adapting a science fiction novel by Arkady and Boris Strugatsky, Tarkovsky created an immersive world with a wealth of material detail and a sense of organic atmosphere. A religious allegory, a reflection on contemporaneous political anxieties, a meditation on film itself, Stalker envelops the viewer by opening up a multitude of possible meanings. Yeah, that's definitely so. You're gonna watch this and just be like, what was that all about? And yeah, definitely there's personal meaning to it that comes out of it. And it's interesting too. Tarkovsky's father was a famous Russian poet, and he includes a lot of his own poetry voiced by the characters in the movie. So that's cool that how he interwove that. Definitely, again, check out this one. It's my favorite. It's really good. But all his films are really amazing and kind of different in their own respective ways. Number two, this I found through some of Tarkovsky's. I like searched Tarkovsky, favorite films or films of related to Tarkovsky, and Bergman is one of Tarkovsky's favorite directors. This was from the 60s or 70s, I think. I think he's a Swedish director. But this one is really good because it's like a kind of a horror film from Bergman, who's not necessarily known for the horror genre. But yeah, Bergman's films are amazing too. This is in Swedish, and I'll read what this one's about from the same website. Yeah, 1968. The strangest and most disturbing of the films Ingmar Bergman shot of the island of Frarhol, Hour of the Wolf stars Max van Sydow as a haunted painter living in voluntary exile with his wife. When the couple are invited to a nearby castle for dinner, things start to go wrong with a vengeance, as a coven of sinister aristocrats hasten the artist's psychological deterioration. This gripping film is charged with a nightmarish power rare in the Bergman canon. It contains dreamlike effects that brilliantly underscore the tale's horrific elements. So yeah, that is that whole storyline is very interesting, and yeah, it's showing the psychological deterioration of an artist. I mean, that's just a good subject matter, I think, in general. But the way he does it is very interesting and kind of like highlights like sin in a lot of ways, like the artist's sin, and our everyone's sin, human sin, through pride and lust, and the way the visual effects, the fantastical visual effects for this, the 60s is really good. Like, one scene is one of the aristocrats is like kind of climbing upside down on the wall, and it's done in a way that's not cheesy or anything like that. So credit to the film making the camera work. But yeah, it's just a really great film in so many ways. And so the last film, number one, is The Obscure Object of Desire. And this is another one of Tarkovsky recommendations. Louis Buñuel, I think he's a Mexican director. But this is just a wonderful, very interesting film. Buñuel is the way he films is very fantastical again. It's very unique. And so, I'll read the description. Louis Buñuel's final film brings full circle the director's lifelong preoccupation with the darkest side of desire. Buñuel regular Fernando Rey plays Matthew, an urban widower tortured by his lust for the elusive Conchita. With subversive flair, Buñuel uses two different actors in the latter role. Carol Bouquet, a sophisticated French beauty, and Angela Molina, a Spanish coquette. Drawn from the surrealist favorite Pierre Lucet's classic erotic novel, The Woman and the Puppet, the obscure object of desire is a dizzying game of sexual politics, punctuated by a terror that harks back to Buñuel's avant-garde beginnings. So yeah, it's super interesting, and I didn't know, and I guess this is a little bit of a spoiler, but the woman character in here, main character, is played by two different people, and when I'm watching it, I'm like, that's not, it's two different people, but I didn't know that, or I didn't want to confirm that, because why would they do that, but it was just the stylistic choice of this director to do that, which is super interesting, and it gives a whole different dynamic to the story itself. And yeah, it's the just exploring lust and sexual politics of men and women, and yeah, it's just super interesting, to explore that and look at yourself, and yeah, so that is my number one film of the year, and a honorable mention is La Ventura by Michelangelo and Antonioni from 1960, another Tarkovsky recommendation, another foreign film. The director invented a new film grammar with this masterwork, an iconic piece of challenging 1960s cinema and a gripping narrative on its own terms. La Ventura concerns the enigmatic disappearance of a young woman during a yachting trip off the coast of Sicily, and the search taken up by her disaffected lover and a best friend. Antonioni's controversial international sensation is a gorgeously shot tale of modern ennui and spiritual isolation. Yeah, it's a great film. The characters are really interesting, great actors. It's an Italian film, so you kind of, it's different. Visually, it's really compelling. And yeah, kind of exploring these interesting storylines in different languages is I found to be really interesting, because you're just getting a different perspective than you kind of maybe don't know, what's going to be happening much more because you don't understand the language and you're just reading subtitles. So it can be, you're departed, I guess, a little bit farther from the storyline to start with, but then it, comes in full, much harder, much more, with much more impact later on once you kind of understand everything, and get that kind of cultural perspective with it. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of these films, the directors, your favorite films this year. I'll include some links so you can check them out, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.